If God gave you a brain, why would he ask you not to use it? Think about that, because one of the biggest misconceptions about Islam is this idea that Islam demands blind faith, that Muslims are told to believe without thinking, to follow without questioning, to obey without understanding. But the truth is the exact opposite. Islam does not fear questions. Islam fears ignorance. In fact, Islam is one of the very few religions that openly challenges you to think. The Quran does not say believe and shut your mind. The Quran repeatedly says, do you not reflect? Do you not reason? Do you not think? This alone should make us pause. Because blind faith is believing something just because you were born into it, just because your parents followed it, just because society told you to. Islam rejects that kind of faith completely. In the Quran, Allah speaks directly to people who blindly follow tradition and says, we found our forefathers doing it, so we do the same. And then Allah responds by questioning them. What if your forefathers knew nothing and were not guided? That is powerful, because Islam does not respect inherited belief without understanding. In Islam, belief must be conscious. It must be chosen. It must be earned through reflection. That is why the very first revelation of the Quran was not pray. It was not fast. It was not submit. It was read. Read, learn, understand. Why would the first command be read if Islam wanted blind followers? Islam wants thinkers, not robots. Even belief in God in Islam is not presented as something you accept emotionally only. It is presented logically. The Quran invites you to look at the universe, the order, the balance, the precision. It asks, did this come from nothing, or did you create it yourself? That is not blind faith. That is intellectual honesty. Islam does not say believe because I said so. It says believe because the evidence around you points to truth. Even the concept of worship in Islam is tied to understanding. You are not rewarded for mindless rituals. You are rewarded for intention and awareness. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, an hour of reflection is better than years of worship. Let that sink in. Reflection, thinking, questioning. This is not the language of blind faith. In Islamic history, the greatest scholars were not afraid of questions. They debated. They challenged each other. They explored philosophy, science, mathematics, medicine. Islamic civilization thrived because thinking was encouraged, not suppressed. Now compare this to blind faith. Blind faith says, do not ask, do not question, just obey. Islam says, ask, but ask sincerely. Question, but seek truth. Doubt, but search honestly. There is a huge difference between doubt that wants truth and doubt that wants excuses. Islam welcomes the first and warns against the second. Even the Quran itself invites scrutiny. It says if this book were from anyone other than God, you would find contradictions in it. That is an open challenge. Name one ideology that invites people to test it like that. Islam does not build faith on fear. It builds faith on conviction. That is why forced belief has no value in Islam. The Quran clearly says there is no compulsion in religion, because forced belief is blind belief, and blind belief is worthless. Faith only has value when you choose it freely with awareness. This is why Islam speaks directly to the mind and the heart together. The heart feels, the mind verifies. When both align, that is true faith. Blind faith can collapse when tested, but informed faith becomes stronger under pressure. That is why many people convert to Islam after questioning it, after challenging it, after trying to disprove it, because Islam does not collapse under scrutiny. It invites it. Islam teaches that God is not threatened by your questions. Truth is not afraid of investigation. Falsehood is. So when someone says Islam is about blind faith, what they are really saying is they have never read the Quran with an open mind. Islam asks you to wake up, to break from cultural religion, to stop following crowds blindly. It asks you to stand alone if needed and ask the hardest questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What happens after death? What is my purpose? Blind faith avoids these questions. Islam demands you confront them. And once you do, once belief becomes clear, once truth settles in the heart, then submission is not weakness, it is strength, because now you are not following blindly, you are following knowingly. And that is the kind of faith Islam calls Iman, a faith with sight, not blindness, a faith that thinks, questions, understands, and then chooses God. That is why Islam rejects blind faith, because truth deserves clarity, and God deserves a believer who knows why they believe.